I was sitting up in bed playing chess on my phone.
Wow.
I think. And because I had been watching the news since Tuesday all day,
Right.
just on 24 hours a day. And so I was like, I'll take a break because they've been saying these results are going to come in for days. And then I heard a woo outside of my window.
Dang.
And so then I turned on the news, and it was on a delay. So I got to see it as it happened. But that's where I was.
Was it like, because it was Saturday, was it like college football, and then it was just like the graphics came on, and you're like, oh, I know what this is.
No, I turned on MSNBC because that's what had been watching.
Gotcha. For people who don't realize, we taped Monday before the election started, and basically like Tuesday happened. I knew we weren't going to find out by Tuesday, so like I didn't stay up that late watching the returns or watching the news that day, because I was like, I don't know, every election they seem to do the same thing where it's like they do it with like the Super Bowl, and they do it with other large events where, let's say the actual event starts at 8:00, they'll start to do like pregame shows or like start to like do the broadcast at like 4 p.m. And then it's just kind of like, oh, we're just going to talk about this thing that hasn't even happened yet, because most of the real information you don't know until the polls close at like 8 p.m. East Coast, right?
Right.
So I didn't start watching, I don't think, until like 9 or 10. And then, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I just kind of like checked in here and there, but I avoided most of the things because it was like, we'll know when we know. It's hard to be like pins and needles for the whole time. At least for me, it was.
Well, I knew that too. I think everybody knew that it wasn't going to be decided that night. But then everybody still watched and was like, when is it going to? Because the first night was scary. And then the second one was better. And then nothing changed for 3 days.
Well, don't you feel like the first night was basically how, like, an analogy for how Trump viewed the election, which is like the first night everybody was nervous because it was like Trump was winning, but it's just like, there's 30% of the vote that's being counted. Why is everybody nervous now? Like, we haven't even gotten to like halfway through the vote count. And meanwhile, Trump's like, I'm winning, I'm killing this election. And I don't know if you looked at any of the betting markets, but the betting markets were like up and down the whole night because people weren't sure, like with the mail-in ballots, who was going to kind of like come ahead, and when are they going to count them? When are they going to include them in the count? I don't know. It was kind of wild, but I wasn't like, I don't know. I wasn't like nervous or kind of being like, oh, I'm worried now because he's winning. I was just kind of like, we'll know at the end of this, one way or the other.
I was worried.
You were worried. I mean, yeah. I think my worry or my concern was more of like what ended up happening later, which is like people either discounting the vote or not, or saying like this is fraudulent or whatever, or not counting certain ballots. That's, I think, what I was more worried about overall, because it seemed like it was like a perfect storm potentially for something bad to happen.
Yeah, I think it's kind of I mean, who knows? But it seems to have fizzled out, right?
Or maybe they're just not...
In terms of the public's anger, like his supporters' anger? I don't know.
I think they're still angry. I think the coverage of it is just not as prevalent as it was the first day, when it was just like, oh, there are people outside of the, election center in Philadelphia, like trying to break in basically to stop the count. Whereas
but don't
now
know, like, that you're wrong in that situation?
Well,
don't you
again,
know, like,
you have to think of who they're taking cue from. They're not taking cue from Fox News. They're taking cue from the president and his people, or other.
But then
people.
It becomes a mental illness and not a political party. Like that. You would think that you're right. I don't know. Maybe they look at us the same way, but it's
they definitely
very
do.
Odd.
And hey, man, welcome to politics, man. That's what politics is all about, man. Just, I don't know, insert some George Carlin bit about politics here, but that's basically what I think either side seems to have that perception of the other side, and there's the whole majority of the United States, which is the majority of people who are in the middle of it, not really caring one way or the other. They're just like, politics are not part of my life. And whether that's, correct or not correct to assume, but that's how they truly kind of live their life, is like, this is not who I am, which is why I think people were worried that Trump might win, because there was a lot of people who wouldn't admit to say that they were voting for Trump, which is why the polls, man.
Mm-hmm.
The polls.
The polls.
Poor Nate Silver, man. Like, he was just looking at the numbers and he was just like, this is what the numbers say. And everybody's just like, you're an idiot. And
Yeah, I don't know. He's a weird guy.
yeah, very, very weird. I don't know if you ever saw him. I saw maybe, I think the first time he became like not a personality, I guess you could say a personality within the election polling and all that kind of world was, I guess like around Obama. He was on like the Daily Show and he was like talking to Jon Stewart about that kind of stuff. And he just seems like the quintessential like modern millennial like tech person who's like
Mm-hmm.
maybe exquisitely smart about this one particular place of expertise, and they don't have social cues. They don't like understand how to like interact with other people because they're just like so focused on like this task that they are obsessed about. And he came off as like a really awkward guy. He was almost like an 80s caricature of what a nerd would be.
Mm-hmm.
Glasses, kind of clammy, pale skin, and just kind of like avoiding eye contact, and just numbers, all about numbers. Numbers is truth.
Yeah, but he's like a weatherman.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
because numbers don't, I don't know, like, sure. Like, how can you use numbers to like for sports, like anything can happen at any point. Your numbers, they're projections, that's all they
Of
are, and
course.
they mean nothing.
Well, I think they used to mean more, or they used to be more accurate, and I think now it seems to be, whether it's polling has changed or people's expectation in polls has like grown. I think when you look at like everything else, you're just like, oh, I can go on Amazon and buy one thing, and pretty soon they know everything I want to buy or need to buy, and it's like an automatic. So I think people still have this perception that like artificial intelligence or data tracking or any of this kind of stuff that is like become a commodity nowadays, they still think it's like foolproof. Which again, I think you're right. Like, the numbers are the numbers, but the numbers might not be correct. How you interpret those numbers might be a whole different thing. Like, it's a whole thing. I only trust the betting market. I trust the people who like Vegas because there's actual like money involved. I mean, you could say there's money involved with like Nate Silver and the polling business in that sense, but at the end of the day, he's still able to do his job, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not saying, "Oh, this is going to happen or that's going to happen," and then people are going to literally bet like their mortgage on that event, which is what happens in Vegas all the time. So they are really good at prognosticating favorites and underdogs because they know that, they're in a business of making money, and they use data, they use everything for that kind of stuff. Like I don't know if you have gambled or have done any of those things before, like bet on a
No.
game, or it's kind of, even just like for the layman who has no idea or interest with gambling. If you go to like any website really, but if you just like Google search like gambling like statistics or whatever, if you like baseball, if you like whatever, hockey, football, any sporting event, you can see who's favored, who's an underdog, and more often than not, they're right. And it's kind of wild
Mm-hmm.
because that's how people make their living, is just betting on that.
Yeah. too risky for my blood. That's what I say. I sit down at a poker table and they say ante up, and I say too risky for my blood, and I walk away.
You're like, Annie, down, please.
Yeah.
I
Can
would
I
like,
have some money?
can you give me this money back? So, have you been to a casino?
No.
No. I've only been to, so I've been to two casinos. One as an adult, one as a younger person. I think maybe I was a teenager or like a kid. I went with like family friends, their parents or whatever took us, and I think it was just like the buffet. I think as far as we got.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but I went to Atlantic City. I went to the casino. I think the Borgata, um, and wow, it's just like a great place. I went and I played slot machines, which are so much fun, and I went and got their buffet. Um, this was something I actually thought about recently. Just like in the past few days, I was watching like election coverage and see all the commercials for like Papa John's pizza that is like a hamburger or a taco. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
And I watch
Disgusting.
it's like gut wrenching just watching it, and I think of that like I'll watch a commercial like that, and I just like put myself in the position of like someone who is not from this country, or someone who yeah that like American way of life is not their norm, and then they would come here and they would see this. Like I'm thinking of my parents. I'm thinking of like immigrants who would come and they would see Papa John's making a pizza that is a burger or a taco, and then just being like, "What the fuck is
Yeah.
this? Who who is this for? How is this even allowed to be shown on TV?" Like it's so repulsive. It's just like this is worse than like showing boobs or swearing on TV. Like
Hmm.
it's horrible.
I'll admit
But
that I used to like the KFC bowl, the mashed potato bowl, and that's sort of a similar thing. Though I would say the difference is those things kind of go together, where it was mashed
yeah,
potatoes, pieces of fried chicken, like boneless chicken things, and then
yeah,
like cheese on top and gravy. So it's kind of like a mess, but it is in the same sort of family. What is this? This
right.
is pizza, hamburger, and taco.
So it was like, well, there's like a pizza burger and then there's like a pizza taco, which obviously there are the classics like pizzas that would do like taco meat and shredded lettuce and cheese or whatever to be like a taco pizza. And same with the burger where they do it hamburger meat. I guess this is similar, but then they like fold the pizza to make it look like like a not like a calzone, but like a burger kind of thing. And I think the thing that it really is fucked up about it to me is it's not that they exist, it's how it's like shown in a commercial. It's like very sexual to watch those commercials because it's like creamy oozing cheese and steamy hot, and it's like shot like like cinematically it's shot as if it was like a very attractive person like putting on like a nice suit or like a bikini. It's just like it has that
Yeah.
mentality. And then
That's
if
the
you
sexiest thing, by the way, is somebody putting on
putting
a
on a suit
bikini.
or
Yeah.
a bikini, exactly. And then you listen to the voiceover on a lot of this stuff, and you realize like a lot of the voices are just like sultry, subtle tones, and it's
Hmm.
just like it's oh, I
It's
don't
not
know.
working for you.
No, it really turns my stomach. And the reason I thought about it is like when I went to the buffet in Atlantic City at a casino, it is such a it is such a like mess of humanity when it comes to the casino, right? All these people who are there, like packed into these little places, smoking, eating, and then you go to the buffet, and it's literally every cuisine you could ever imagine: Mexican food, Asian food, Italian, American, French, and then every dessert you can imagine. And you pay whatever, $25 for the meal, and you can eat as much as you can. And yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, this is why not only why everybody hates us, this is also why like there's so much like poison in our bodies, in our food and everything. So it's like
Yeah.
this is not good. But they do have a salad, so you could eat healthy if you wanted to.
I never like the all you can eat thing. I can't eat that much.
Yeah.
So it was never worth it for me to spend 15 $25, however much the sizzler costs, or like a Chinese buffet or something like that. I
Would
can
you
get
say?
like maybe one helping and then I'm full.
I feel like a part of it is that isn't the kind of premise for a buffet. This is how I believed it to be, at least. The premise of the buffet is that if you're paying like entry to a buffet and you're not like using that one entry to feed three people, you're kind of a loser.
But I thought you're only supposed to do it for like yourself. What do you
That's
mean?
what I mean. I always, because whenever I'd gone to a buffet with friends, it would always be like, okay, Mark's gonna pay, and then we're just gonna like,
Right, but if they
hang
catch
out.
you, the thing was like if they
Again,
catch you sharing, then
that's part of the game.
I don't know what happens. You get in trouble, I guess.
I guess when you get in trouble, they either like kick you out, maybe, but also wouldn't they just be like, hey, you can't? I don't know. I've never been caught. It's always been a thing of like some of them is very different. It's like, oh, you can only take one plate, and that's as much food as you can put in at a time is just on this plate. You can't take like multiple plates, maybe to deter people from like trying to share and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But I was always of the mind that if I go to a buffet with friends, like four of us are going, at the maximum, two of us are only paying. Like not all four of us are paying. I guess the difference would be in the casinos is that you get an actual ticket, and it's kind of like a carnival where there's an actual barrier between the entrance and the actual buffet. So in order to get past the barrier and into the buffet, you need the ticket, and
Mhm.
each person has to have a ticket.
I see.
But
Well, no more buffets ever because of. Yeah, imagine being that one guy that brought COVID here. How much like
I
every
mean,
day? Like that's the equivalent of those gender reveal people who lit the fire in California.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's like
Well,
you idiot.
also, I guess I wouldn't feel as bad for the person who with COVID because there's a chance that like they didn't even know, which I
Right, and
think
if it
is
wasn't that person, it would have been another person.
for sure. Um, yeah, it's weird because I don't know. What do you think the mentality is of something like that? And even if you remove like the virus thing or whatever, but like, let's say you, yeah, you were solely the responsible party for something that like became like national news, and it was something. Would you say, even if it was inadvertent? Well, I guess even now there's examples where people like inadvertently did something and it was like bad. You could say the people who were doing gender reveals didn't mean to start a fire.
Of
They just
course.
wanted fireworks at their baby thing. Um, and yeah, I mean, a lot of those people got like charged with like actual crimes. So you could
Well,
say
yeah,
that.
because they did something they weren't supposed to do. But also the whole concept is flawed of gender reveal parties.
Well, I'll put it to you this way: what if you're Mark Zuckerberg and you're the creator of Facebook, and you're like, I created this thing
Oh,
that
I
was meant
see.
to be
Yeah.
one thing, and it turns into
Well, to
this
be fair,
like,
the thing he created was a website to rate women in their classes. So it wasn't good from the start.
yeah, no.
But I get what you're saying. Yeah. And so now he's like
All right, let's
caused the
use
yeah.
Jack Dorsey for Twitter instead.
Who's
So,
oh that's the guy who created it.
yeah,
I know him as Jack.
you know him as Jack.
Yeah.
Does he become your friend like how MySpace Tom became everybody's friend once they signed up, or is
I
that?
don't no, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. That it's kind of funny that like that was never really implemented. Like as a social media platform, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or even MySpace, I would think too, where it's just like automatically you follow this person and it's just like artificially boosts their their followers, kind of like how U2 released their album on every, was it an iPhone or a Samsung phone whenever it came out? Do you remember that?
Oh, the iPhone, yeah.
Yeah, so like everybody who bought an iPhone also had the U2 album on there, and they just were like, "Oh yeah, we sold a billion records because every phone had a U2 album on
Yeah, which is like, who cares? I don't think that's a
it."
big deal.
No, it isn't, but I don't think you could delete it off of there. You had to have it.
Well, I don't have it now, so you must have been able to.
Well, I think it was just for one version, but
Oh.
yeah, if you were Jack Dorsey and you
Hmm.
created this thing that has done some incredibly good things and some incredibly terrible things, what would be your headspace right now in 2020? Would you be like, I'm the harbinger of all this evil, or I did some good things like a little bit ago? I
Well, I
have to
don't know
remember that.
what his political views are, but it's, you know, Trump shouldn't have been allowed to use Twitter. First of all, that's something I think, is that a president shouldn't be able to use Twitter. Like that, maybe that should be taken out of, like, you know, they, because they're influencing people in a different way, and things are getting spread because of what they post. It's just all bad news. But anyway, he like incited violence and did all these things that were against their terms that anybody else would be like suspended for, and they just let him do it until recently when they started slapping the like
Right.
tags on it that said this isn't true and stuff like that. But they should have just deleted his account.
Yeah, well, I think part of that is where do you lie? Where do you stand on where free speech should be? Like, I feel like that's where the discussion of free speech comes in, is like there is an issue with social media platforms because they are not necessarily a free speech haven because there's a user agreement that you
Yeah,
have
you
to.
agree to that, right? Nobody
Exactly.
reads it, but you agree to it.
And that's also potentially a problem too, is that like there are definitely people on Twitter who have no idea what the user agreement deems as proper or not proper, and can definitely violate it. But I think like that's like a huge issue with conservatives, is that Twitter will label certain things that they do as like incorrect, or even potentially shadow ban them or whatever, and do those kind of things. And their contention is that it's politically motivated, which it probably is in some respect. But the problem is that those aren't forms of free speech. Like you almost have to be accepted onto those platforms in order to do that, and those platforms have to then kind of like either admit, are they a magazine where they can like have editorial of like what is allowed and what's not allowed, which brings restrictions from what they can and can't do and how they can and can't restrict people, or are they like a tool, like a public square, like that would be in the middle of your town that would allow anybody to come and speak. And I know there's lots of like legal issues regarding that, because conservatives believe they should be able to say whatever they want to say, and Twitter and Facebook and social media are trying to figure out what the happy medium is, I guess, of like allowing them to say certain things but not also incite hate speech and violence and like all that other stuff. It's weird.
Right.
It's like more fuel to the fire of like there should be like a true reconsideration of the Constitution every like 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, so
Like,
if they want like the free, freedom to speech, if they want that to be adjusted to include like all aspects of the internet or something,
right.
then why can't we adjust the right to bear arms or something like that?
Yeah,
And
I think
they're
that's
so
part of it.
against us altering that in any way, but it's like,
Yeah, I mean,
that was, things change every, would you say 15 years? Yeah, like things.
well, I would say that. Yeah, like whatever date or time period that they would want to impose is like how we would then kind of. I mean, we say every 10 years is the census. What if every 10 years we do a reconsideration of the Constitution? Yeah, I think the downside is what you see with the Supreme Court is that when you have a particular party in power, they can dictate what the future will look like. And I think that is also kind of dangerous, which is why I think a lot of people are like, we have to keep the Constitution as is because it's the one thing that kind of mediates the political landscape. It makes it
Well,
tries to be even.
start drafting a new one, and then if it doesn't work, like you're not gonna. They just burn the old one. All right, let's start over.
Let's start over.
I
Fuck.
think you can always go back.
Where's the
I don't
whiteout?
know.
I'm just thinking out loud, but I do think that there's some things like the Supreme Court thing is interesting because we're upset that like they're including so many conservative judges and they're not balancing the court as we would say most presidents in past generations have tried to keep it fairly even, or that process is slow enough where it's been evened. And I think it's weird because like the Democrats made it like they removed a filibuster or like a supermajority vote rule to allow them to like add justices when Obama was in power. And there were a lot of articles and there were a lot of people who were saying, I mean, specifically Republicans who were saying, we don't agree with this. We think this is wrong, that you are taking out a protecting thing from the judiciary process that favors you right now. The problem is that you will not always be in power. And when we are in power, we are going to do the same thing to you. And that's exactly what happened, is that, you know, Mitch McConnell and all those guys are like, oh, well, you know, we are going to confirm Amy Coney Barrett because that's what the rules are. And I think what that continues to do is that as things go forward, we'll just continue to be like, all right, well, now Biden's going to do something to change this. And then whoever comes president after them, if they're Republican, they're going to go back and change all this stuff. And then it's just like a mess. It's not really like doing the thing that it was intended to do, which is be like the judiciary, like decider of those certain things, whether it's court matters, constitutional matters, or whatever. So I think it's weird now because it's like, it's so lopsided. And it's like, how do you fix that now? Do you add more? I don't know.
I mean, there should also be, welcome to political talk.
To political talk on, will we be on MSNBC or would we be too dangerous for MSNBC?
No, we'd be on public access.
Yeah, we would be on PBS. Or no, we'd be on like community access. And people would just be like, it'd just be like, static noise flipping through the channels. It's like static noise, My Pillow ads, and then it's us sitting down in suits.
You need rabbit ears to get our channel.
Exactly. We're putting on suits,
yeah, talking
in low sultry tones about politics.
Yeah, I like it. Let's figure out how to do that.
I think, did you ever watch like, I know like SNL did sketches like that, or like the McLaughlin Group, or like those kind of like political roundtable talk shows where it's just like, you know, 5 old balding white guys and one lady talking about like, you know, OPEC or
I've only seen
NATO.
it on like TV shows, like the Cosby Show did it.
Really?
Where Claire Huxtable goes on, and she's the one woman and the one woman of color, and she has to like hold her own against all these older white men. And I think they're talking about race at some point, and she owns them.
That's something. I don't know how much like of those sports talk shows that you watch, but that's a big formula for sports talk shows is 2 men and a hot lady in between the 2 men, or like hot lady and a dude talking. And it's weird because like once you go into the politics, there is a version of that too, where it's like minority who is going to speak for all minorities, and then a panel of white dudes who are going to like try to dismantle everything they say. I mean, like CNN does it really well. CBS, I think, is like probably the perfect example of it, where it's like, yeah, we're trying to hit the demographics, but like to them, the demographics are like, all right, we got a black guy on, that's good for diversity or whatever. And then they're all just kind of like, but do you think it's right to vote that way? And they're like, yes, I do think it's right. And they're like, we'll see. And up next, and it's just like Wolf Blitzer. I can't watch like that, like MSNBC, CNN, CBS, Fox, like they're all like the same. Just yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, CNN was hard. That's why I switched to MSNBC this election week because they had Rick Santorum on CNN. It was
Uh,
very odd because they have like, and I don't know all their names, but they had Anderson Cooper. Wait,
yeah.
uh, I think they had Anderson Cooper, um, Jake Tapper. Is that his name?
Oh yeah.
And then Van Jones and a woman I don't know her name, and then it was Rick Santorum. And so Rick Santorum would talk, and they would all just gang up on him and say like, "You're stupid. How could you say that, you
Right.
idiot?" And
Rick's,
then Van Jones would say something that made sense and was poignant, and then Rick Santorum would be like, "But I don't get that." And like, I mean, and everybody else would agree with Van Jones. It was a
yeah,
very odd dynamic that it's like, why did you ask that guy to be here?
I know. Van Jones is weird. Do you remember when when Trump gave his State of the Union address, and Van Jones is like, "This is the most presidential I've ever seen him," and I'm proud or whatever that he finally got there. It was like such a weird thing. This was also three
Yeah.
years ago when everybody was just
I
like,
think he's definitely gone back on that.
"Yeah, I think he's gone back that on that too."
I don't fault him for anything. I don't fault any of them who like say something that they go, I'm not talking about like terrible stuff, but I'm talking like you're
Right.
on camera, you don't have a script for everything.
I
And
don't
in a
know.
conversation you might say something that you're like, "Oh wait, that didn't make any sense." Or you're like, I don't really think that.
I don't know. I don't know if I would give them that much leeway, only because um the difference is that they're on TV and they're getting paid to do this. Like no one's like
Mhm.
dragging them off the street and be like, "All right, Mark, give us your top three things on like why you think healthcare should be for everybody or shouldn't be or whatever." Like these are
The sandwiches that you make, the special sandwiches at the Subway sandwich shop.
all right. That was
We
Mark,
should run.
and
We should run America like the Subway sandwich shop. Yeah.
exactly. Whereas like Vanjos and all the other pundits are very well paid for their opinion, but part of the thing I think that I don't like about a lot of that stuff is not only is it their opinion, but like they have to create, like it has to be entertaining. Like it has to be somewhat engaging for people to watch it, which is why you would have like,
I don't know. Wolf Blitzer is pretty boring.
oh yeah, he's
There's
uh,
nothing
dr-
entertaining about him.
he's very dry, but he's not the reason people watch the show. He's just the facilitator to all of the other people to whether it's they bring it on or they come on and they talk about things. But Wolf Blitzer is never giving an opinion. He's just kind of like, and I'm giving you straight news, and it's like up to Van Jones and like all the other people to give their like thoughts on it. It's just
Hmm.
weird because so like for election night, I watched CBS and then I would flip over to Fox just to see what the difference is as far as like how the perception of the night was going. And Fox is like how you can imagine, how most people could imagine, is just kind of like trying to carefully on eggshells like walk around the reality that Biden is probably winning this and kind of
Hmm.
questioning certain things and then kind of bringing up things that are not even really related to what's happening and just kind of be like, well, it's kind of interesting that the Democrats are doing this and you know like playing defensive about certain things when they're like, you know, it's unfortunate that people would say those nasty things about the president and all those things. It's like they're just playing it up. Whereas
Yeah.
CBS would be playing like the opposite, and MSNBC, and whatever. And then, have you ever seen Newsmax or heard of
No,
Newsmax?
I
It's
don't
like
think
a
so.
it's like a ONN like knockoff channel with like uh, yeah, just like pseudo conservatives with like not good camera equipment, so it looks like everything's shot on like an iPhone, and everybody looks kind of like they're wearing too much makeup, and everything kind of looks like a fake Zoom background,
Hmm.
and they're just like purely just saying Trump shit basically. And that's what this is all about now. It's very hard to kind of just like watch because it's just like hard to look at.
Yeah.
But yeah, but now that Biden won and everything is going to go back to normal and like
Right.
everything that
Almost
we
immediately.
almost immediately, and then like life will be cool again, and I can go hang out outside with all of my friends without a mask because COVID doesn't exist anymore, and it's great.
Yeah. I I'm looking forward to it.
Did you go
Well,
out
I
and
mean, these. Did I go out and celebrate?
yeah,
I went out, or I went to the park with a friend yesterday,
yeah,
or 2 days ago, and then yesterday. Today's Monday, and then yesterday I went to the park with some other folks, different park.
right.
So that's
But
what I did. How about you?
I mean, I was outside because it's a very nice weekend, but I did not go to any of the like gatherings only
Oh
because
yeah,
I was just like,
too many people.
COVID's still there. COVID's
Right?
like, hey
I
man,
wasn't gonna go into the city. No way.
hell no. But there were a lot of people that asked me if I was going or like did it. I was like, I don't know. It's kind of wild considering that like COVID has had the highest infection rate days for the past week since never, because these are the highest we've ever had in the United States. Kind of
Right.
seemed like a inopportune time to go mix it up with thousands of people who may or may not be wearing a mask,
Mm-hmm.
screaming and chanting, and I don't know. I saw like photos and video of people in the Washington Square fountain, like just in that area, like in the fountain, and I was just like, this is not going to end well for us.
Oh boy.
I mean,
Yeah.
that could be
There's.
said. That's true of like normal times because anybody who goes into that fountain, you're gonna leave that fountain with something, a staph infection, a fucking TB, tetanus, you name it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I would never. Any chance I get to not. I mean, it sounded like a fun idea, but then it's like, oh, I gotta take the subway, and there's gonna be crazy people there that are just like loud. I don't know.
loud.
My first thought when I heard the guy say "woo" outside my window was, "Shut the fuck up." And then I realized like what was going on at the time.
You were like, oh yeah, that's right. There is an
Yeah, this
election potentially,
right. I thought it was just someone saying "woo,"
and you're just like, Jesus.
screaming. Yeah, so gonna
No,
throw open the sash, take off my sleeping hat, and say, "Oh, you keep her down out there."
yeah, you're gonna really Scrooge it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yeah,
Ruin the fun
definitely.
for somebody who's
Yeah,
just excited, you know?
yeah. Well, don't be excited outside my window. Go be excited somewhere else.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we'll continue all the good times. We'll let the good times roll. As Steve Miller, did he say that?
I think the
Let
cars.
the Cars. Wow, I was in a different era.
Yeah,
Steve Miller
that's
only
okay.
wrote "Fly Like an Eagle," or no,
Yeah,
what is "Fly Like an Eagle"?
yeah. Take the
And
money and run.
take
The Joker.
the Joker. That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Being an employee at a bowling alley, I've heard that song no less than 5,000 times.
Did you get sick of it, or did you like it?
Yeah, no, very sick of it. Like
Wow, wow.
it's it's definitely a song that people will. It's a song that you can only appreciate the first time you smoke weed, and you're like, hey, this is cool. I get this now. And then pretty soon you're just like, oh God, make it all stop. It's
Yeah, I
terrible.
like it. I think it's a good song.
Touche.
Short,
Touche.
sweet.
Yeah. So election's over, and we're moving on, living our lives as we roll into a November.
Yeah, year's almost over. I end my year in December, also.
Oh, okay, I do as
So
well.
we only got a couple more weeks.
Yeah, I'm excited now for the onslaught of year-end reviews where it's just like 2020 in review, and we'll just kind of relive all the terrible things that has happened. And
well,
then
maybe
also,
we'll do an episode like that.
yeah,
We'll do a
let's
year in review.
a year in review. We'll have different categories.
Yeah. I'll just say right now, one of my favorite things that didn't get enough attention is the Reds announcer, which we already talked about.
Oh, yeah.
But people seem to just blow right past that, and it's one of the funniest things that I've ever seen.
Uh, you, I feel like that's a category of like,
Things
and I
we
feel like
missed.
things we missed are like monumental fuck ups, because I feel like there's been plenty of those. That, like, if we thought about it, there were plenty of those kind of events that happened where we're just like, oof, you'll want to take that one back, but
Yes. Got
because
Kim
the
Kardashian doing her private island getaway thing. There's
yeah,
so many.
that was definitely one.
Because that was only covered for a couple days. Also, nobody was really talking about that.
There's literally too much news. Well, not
Yeah.
there's not too much news. There's I don't know. We don't have the appetite to really like dig in unless it's like a massive thing.
Hmm.
I don't know. There should definitely be a category that we'll do of like, this happened in 2020, but you forgot about it. And I feel like Tiger King is at the top of that list,
Yeah.
because I don't like if Tiger King
God, so many
definitely.
things. Yeah.
Tiger
This year was so long. Sorry, I keep cutting
Australia
you
was
off and going into a depressive. Oh, this year.
Australia was on fire. Remember that? The entire country of Australia.
I don't.
Yep. Well, it
I
happened.
really don't.
It really happened. Oh man. And Prince died, which is just insane.
No. That was this year? No.
No,
You're crazy.
It was 2 years ago.
You got. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't know what happened when.
I know. That will definitely be something I look forward to, and immediately skimming through, because I'm like, I don't really care.
Yeah, the Wikipedia.
The Wikipedia skimmed. All right, we'll think of that for a future ep.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Should we get started?
Let's get started.